Welcome to this presentation of the Paper Street Podcast. Welcome to Late to the Party, a program on the Paper Street Pictures Podcast Network. Your hosts for the following are myself, Shawn Talley, and joining me for this, as he traditionally does, a fellow member of the Paper Street Pictures production team, a man who has more one-liners than Captain Stephen Hiller, a man who's just a little anxious to get up there and whoop BT's ass, that's all. He is Mr. Cameron Burns. How goes it, Cam?
Oh, I love everything about what you just said. I'm here for the one-liners, and no one does them like Captain Stephen Hiller, except maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger. So it's going to be a good day.
It is, and as you've clicked on this episode, you know we're talking about 1996 film Independence Day, starring Will Smith, which really broke him into the next tier. That man certainly conquered he did the triple crown of TV, movies, and music, and was very successful in all three. And this launched him into a whole other tier, as I think he was coming off the heels of Bad Boys, which he didn't even have top billing, and people forget Martin Lawrence was the star of that show in the initial run of it. And only one of them is run down Highway 101 in L.A. with a gun, half naked.
Is it Tia Leone?
It's Tia Leone. Nice.
I knew it. I knew she was unhinged. I could just tell.
You just know. So Cameron, if anybody happens to be tuning in for the first time because they came across this show or happen to like this movie or happen to like our guest, can you tell folks in the quick explainer what this podcast is about?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, welcome Independence Day and or Kimmi enthusiasts. So what we do here on Late to the Party is we reach out to some people that we want to talk to, people in the film space, the horror space, people that we think will make interesting conversations. And we say, hey, man, what's a huge zeitgeisty movie that you've never seen before? And inevitably they say, well, I haven't seen Lawrence of Arabia. And I'm like, yeah, but that's like 4 hours. So what else you got? And then they give us some other movie. And I'm like, oh, cool. And, this time it's Independence Day. And so, we bring in Kimmi and we chat with her a little bit, and then we send her off to watch the movie, and then we chat with her a little bit more. And that's kind of the way it works.
Indeed. This was one you hit me with immediately, and I said, you know what? I know you like this movie a ton from your youth. I was a jerk about it in 1996 and then didn't watch it too much in years since. And I'm hoping to soften up on it a little bit on a rewatch because I feel like it might be a needed respite for what's going on. Because my memory of it is, it's not that I ever truly disliked it or hated it. I just think I possibly thought it was just a little, maybe some cookie cutter characters or some basic stuff. I know it had some cool action, some cool effects at the time, a lot of cool practical work that made all the trailers with the big.
I get it. It's not Fellini's 8.5.
I'm not that far down the pretentious hole, but no, I'm excited to revisit it myself because the way that there's been a movie or two where each of us is like, I don't need to rewatch this. I know it so well. I think that's you with this movie.
Yes.
But there's some bits that are kind of, I still remember some lines here and there, some of the one-liners from Will Smith's character, but yeah, I'm excited to revisit it too.
Well, then let's do that.
Yeah, definitely a big one. Kimberley Elizabeth, who we'll introduce here in a second. We want to find out first why she never saw this one. So stay tuned on the other side for her to answer that question and more.
We're going to grill her.
Joining us on this installment, she is the co-founder, editor, and host of Nightmare on Film Street, a horror outlet and top film review podcast. She's also a Rotten Tomatoes certified film critic, spooky screenwriter, sometimes filmmaker with credits including House of Ashes and the horror anthology Symphony, as well as an author who has a cocktail book called Cocktails from the Crypt that features cocktails themed after horror movies. The multi-hyphenate, she is Kimberley Elizabeth. Kimmi, thank you so much for joining us here.
Oh, thank you for that lovely intro.
Thank you for writing it on IMDb and me taking it and picking pieces from it. No,
don't give up our trade secrets, Shawn.
Yeah, Google.
No. I mean, you forgot to mention that I'm also a pug mom.
Oh, that's the most important part. Oh, yeah. I have seen the pictures. Those pugs are delightful.
What are their names? I gotta know. They have to be horror themed.
Matilda and George.
Okay.
Completely not horror at all. Although George is based on, we call him George Snorwell, based on George Orwell. So that's a little offbeat. Matilda's just Matilda.
Not named after the Roald Dahl character?
Not sure, yeah.
I was going to say, between Orwell and Matilda, there's some horror elements in all of those things, if you've read a Roald Dahl book.
Yeah, true.
And if we're living an Orwellian nightmare right now, so you know.
Uh-huh.
But we don't talk about that. One more thing about our guest, Kim E. or Kimberly, depending on the day. As learned a filmgoer as she may be, and we know she's got probably less horror blind spots, but in general, Kimmi has never seen the 1996 film Independence Day.
I know. I can't believe I'm admitting it publicly.
I guess my first question is, what the heck?
Yeah, I don't know. And the thing too is that this one was on TV a lot as a kid, and I just didn't ever watch it.
You had to try not to watch this movie. When you went to Blockbuster in the 90s, they would just give it to you. It was like
I just closed my eyes.
It was like the whole back wall. It was like the whole back wall was nothing but Independence Day.
Yeah, it was a big movie. I don't know, man.
Buy one, get one ID4. We have too many.
Were you not, is it not really your genre? Were you not like a big action? I know you're horror mostly, but are you not into the big action movies? Is that kind of how it missed you? Or
I think it generally just didn't have the fun vibe, I guess, to like a young me, because if I wanted to watch, say, a Will Smith sci-fi film, I would have watched Men in Black. And if I wanted to watch an alien invasion movie, I would have watched Mars Attacks. So those are the kind of substitutes that I had growing up.
You're speaking my language with Mars Attacks. Yeah, this was I believe the highest box office of 96. It was out there. It's one of the bigger movies we're probably going to cover just in general,
because everybody in the world has seen it but me.
Right. Yes, that is exactly the reason. Yes. But yeah, it's just so like, it's just so wild to me that like, and we've had this before. We've done Titanic, we've done Scream. Obviously this is not the first, won't be the last.
Oh wow, Titanic's a big one.
Yeah, like they're just like, there's certain movies that you just assume by like cultural osmosis that everyone has just seen. So I guess going with the cultural osmosis thing, how much of this movie do you think you know despite having never seen it? Like what do you know about the movie?
I can honestly say, like, I do not know the plot at all. I know, like, those iconic scenes. Like, I know there's a spaceship above the White House at some point. That's really the beginning and end of it. And Will Smith said it. That's all I know.
Oh, man. We are in for a treat here, Shawn. This is going to be exciting. This is just so you're aware, High School Cameron, this was his all-time favorite movie.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I haven't watched it in a little while. I'm sure it's probably not as good as I remember, but it's one I check out from time to time and still have a good time with. But yeah, this was like my favorite movie ever. I saw it on opening weekend, and like this was a big one for me.
Yeah,
wow.
Opening weekend for me as well with Aaron Kuntz of Paper Street. And I famously was the grump who didn't like it and didn't really like another Roland Emmerich movie ever again. I love Stargate from 94, which he did a couple years prior to this. But, you know, it's not that he coined it, but his movies are what became known as disaster porn. So I don't know, Kimmi, if you've seen like, what is it, Moonfall and A Day After Tomorrow. And a lot of his movies have been this vein of like, let's blow stuff up. Let's do some iconic building being destroyed or flooded.
The funny thing is I have seen all of those.
It's even wilder that you missed this one. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing too is it's in like that sweet spot. Like I love 90s movies. Like if I had to guess, I would say that is this have like almost like an Armageddon like plot? Like is Will Smith like in a role that's outside of his scope or something?
No, it's very much he was leaning into like the action star route. And this is one of those
so he's just the big hero.
Yeah, he's the cocky kind of good guy. So yeah, it's not really stretching for him.
I love that you've seen like all of these other lesser versions, but you haven't seen this one. It makes me so happy.
And isn't Moonfall, like, did anybody see Moonfall?
I love Moonfall, like somewhat ironically, but like I had a good time with Moonfall. Like movies like Geostorm and Moonfall and stuff like that. I'm willing to check my brain at the door and just take them for what they are. I mean, Independence Day to me is light years better than either of them, but I'm fine to go along for the ride of some of these as long as they're fun. Like I think some of the lesser Roland Emmerich movies, they just got less fun, like Day After Tomorrow or like
Day After Tomorrow has a little pessimistic vibe to it. So I'm thinking Aliens might be a little less pessimistic. We might have some fun here.
It's a little bit straddles the line, but it's fun. Like the actual story is kind of pessimistic, but without getting too far down the rabbit hole. But it does it in a way that is never boring and always fun. So yeah. I'm very excited for you to see this now, knowing that this is like you've danced through the raindrops not to see this.
Yeah, nothing. I could just show you that one still that everybody knows, and that's the beginning and end of it for me.
That's wild that it didn't, connect in any way other than like, yes, every single trailer I think ended with that, beam hitting the White House and exploding. And that's probably what stuck with you most maybe. But it's interesting, Cam, we talked about you loved it in your high school era, and I did not so much. And then because of that, I didn't really rewatch it over the years. So I haven't seen this movie in probably 15 to 20 years. So I'm kind of excited to go back and soften on it because I certainly I don't know if I'd say I was a hater, but I was indifferent at best to this movie for a couple decades. So I'm kind of interested to see how I take to it too. And knowing how bad some modern blockbusters have gotten, I can't imagine I'm going to hate it.
Let's break this down a little bit. Shawn. What is the reason this didn't land for you? Was this more like, because I was yet to be like the learned film goer that you see before you. I was just kind of I liked movies, and this blew some stuff up, and I had a good time with it. But like, were you already kind of rallying against that in like a film schooly sort of way at that point? Like, why did this one of all movies not land for you?
So it's been 20 years, but possibly because I do remember like 94, 95 with all those, what were highbrow to us at the time, the Shawshank, Pulp Fiction, Heat, Seven, Casinos were coming out in 94, 95. And I'm pretty sure by 96, I was like thinking I was above it possibly. But then I hated Godzilla a couple years later too that he did. So I started disliking all of those kind of disaster porn movies, but I don't know why this one didn't land for me. I didn't stick with it as like, that's a worse movie. It was just one of those that just didn't hit me right. So I'm hoping it hits me a little better now.
I'm so excited to watch this.
That's great.
We always have one person watch them, and now like you've got like a side quest going on here, and like, oh, I'm so excited.
We have so many perspectives going into it. Like, hated it when it came out, was obsessed with it when it came out, has no idea what's gonna happen.
Yeah, we're all coming at it from a different perspective. So I don't
remember if there's opening credits, but this has a very notable cast if that doesn't get given away in the opening credits. So you will see a lot of familiar faces beyond Will Smith.
Yeah, I don't even know who the president is, so I'm very excited.
Ooh. Okay, that's interesting because his speech has become such a memorable meme, and they play it. They actually will like play it at firework rallies and stuff on Independence Day because it's a big rah-rah USA / the world versus the aliens thing. So it'll be interesting to see how you take to that.
This is the kind of movie where like even like day players you will recognize. Like, it's that kind of movie where they had like the blank check cast, and they just went out and got all of these like character actors you recognize. And so, yeah, you'll have a good time with that. If you don't know who the president is, you're going to see a lot of people you recognize.
Cool. I'm ready.
Oh, I'm ready. I'm excited that you're ready. I'm ready because you guys are ready.
I'm excited.
I've seen this movie 100 times, but don't give it away. That's
the A-listers you're talking about.
Yes, like Harvey Weinstein.
So yeah, this is exciting because I do feel like if Kimmi doesn't hate those lesser ones, I don't think she's going to take to this in a terrible way because again, she's going to be watching basically the apex of Roland Emmerich and his quote unquote disaster porn. So I have a good feeling about it.
You'd have to be pretty dead inside, I think, to not take to this at all. Like there's just an inherent like shock and awe of like entertainment here, I think, that will hit you in some capacity, as long as you're not, 16-year-old Shawn going, oh, it's not the Seven Samurai. Like, as long as you're not that guy, like, I think you're good. You're gonna at least be.
I have deprogrammed and desnobbed over the years. It was only like a 2-year stretch where I was real jackass about that.
I waited for college and film school to be that guy, and
those are your Independence Day years.
Yeah, that life was simpler then. Kimmi, life was good. Not a care in the world. Oh, to go back to those days. 96. Flagpole Sitta was on the radio, and everyone was just living their best life.
Top 5 90s one-hit wonder. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah. That and Tub Thumping are like the two that immediately popped up.
Oh, man. Tub Thumping.
Okay. In the Meantime by Space Hog probably tops my list, but sure.
Oh, that's a good one. But are they like so? I had that album, not to go too far down the rabbit hole here, but I had that album. So are they a one-hit wonder?
Yes, that was the only one that actually charted.
Is the Verve Pipe a one-hit wonder?
Yes, Freshman's the only one that charted. We're going way off the rails. Kimmi, this is how we do.
Yeah,
90s
we may never get back to the movie.
It's our Godwin's Law, I think, on this podcast. We will always somehow bring it back to 90s rock.
Yeah.
Let's wrap this up and actually let Kimmi go watch this because we do want to get her fresh take on it.
All right, fine.
Yeah, I have no idea what I'm in for, so I am pumped.
We will return in just a moment here to get Kimmi's fresh thoughts on Independence Day and much more, so stay tuned. Hey there, welcome back. What was mere seconds for you, the listener, was a good deal more for us. When we last left off, our guest, Kimberley Elizabeth, had not seen Independence Day. She was late to the party, but at least she made it, and we welcome her back, a more cultured individual, a more learned film viewer, someone who has now seen Roland Emmerich's 1996 film, Independence Day. Kimmi, welcome to Earth, and are you feeling any or all of the aforementioned?
I survived. I am here. I'm present. I will say I did catch a bit of a cold between then and now, so I'm sorry if I sound a little froggy.
Oh, interesting.
That's all right. So did the son of the crazy guy who, for some reason, gets sick, and I feel like there's a side story that gets cut out of the movie where
what does he have?
It is gone like a day later, because remember the whole movie takes place over 3 days. So I don't know. Russell Case's son got a case of the flu or something. I don't know. That's
so did the alien ship. Ahoy!
That's the first of many dad jokes you'll be receiving on this episode. So I sidetracked us with a little bit of dad humor. Let's go back to this. Kimmi, I haven't been able to sleep at night. I have to know, how did this movie land for you?
Honestly, I think being sick made it better. This felt like the perfect, snuggle up with the tea, get a cozy blanket. I loved it. Oh,
I'm so excited. So excited. Shawn, what about you? Because I don't remember how much we talked about it in the open, but this was never a big one for you either. So where did it land? Normally, I would not throw this to you. We would keep talking to Kimmi, but we don't play by society's rules. So where did this viewing take you?
Like Star Wars prequels and 2 of the Star Wars sequels and other movies, I have softened in my old age on a rewatch where it was not as bothersome for whatever reason it was to 1996 me. I still have issues. We'll talk about them. I still think it's aggressively fine and innocuous on purpose, but I did not dislike it in any capacity. But we'll get into that in a minute. I do want to say something, Cam, real quick.
Just like you for saying that. Go ahead.
You notoriously, we've talked about this off air before about War of the Worlds, the original book, the original serial, the Tom Cruise Spielberg movie. You thought that was a cop-out ending, having a virus knock them out. Do you find it fun and that this is a modern kind of retelling of that, and that they do give the thing a virus of sorts?
I like that they did. So the difference between War of the Worlds and Independence Day as it pertains to the ending is that, like, in War of the Worlds, we're just kind of getting the shit kicked out of us by the aliens. It's like this us versus them alien survival movie. And then, like, through nothing we do, they just all die and we go, hooray, we won. It's like I always say, it's like if at the end of Rocky IV, Ivan Drago just has a heart attack and everybody goes, yay, Rocky won. It's like, no, Rocky didn't win. Ivan Drago had a heart attack. Here, the genius of this one, sorry, Kimmi, I'm on a roll here.
No, I want to hear her retort to this.
The genius of this one is that we, the us and the us versus them, gave them the virus. That's what doesn't happen in War of the Worlds. We outsmarted them. That we didn't just wait for them to die. Go ahead, Kimmi. Sorry.
I'm just going to retort that I think it's a little bit more plausible, though, that something of Earth is what dismantles them rather than us having technology that's good enough or on par with taking down their systems.
Yeah. Oh, it's 1,000 times more plausible, which is why it works like gangbusters in War of the Worlds, the novel. What it doesn't do is make for a satisfying ending of an action movie.
This is true. This is fair.
But at the end of the day, we are nothing but just filth. So it's fun to think that that's all it took was they start fighting us and they go, oh God, I got a cold. And then they all.
No, it's totally true.
It's always
my girlfriend works at a preschool, and she it's like she spends every day with the Ebola monkey. She comes home sniffly 8 times out of 10. Like, I don't know how anybody doesn't die of the flu.
That does explain why you're sick more often than the rest of us.
Honestly, she must have an immune system made of steel.
No, she just gets sick every week.
Oh.
It's the other option. But sorry, we sidetracked. So everyone loves the movie is my takeaway.
A lot of people do.
It was very fun. Critically, but very fun. I had a blast.
It is everything I love about big budget action movies. It's fun. It's not smart, but it's not aggressively dumb. And that's all I need from my big budget studio action movies. It just can't be so dumb to where you roll your eyes. And this movie skirts that razor's edge perfect for me.
Kimmi, a couple questions in the follow-up of your macro thoughts. Was it kind of what you thought it would be? Was there more cultural osmosis than you realized watching it, that you knew some lines or knew some other shots? Or was it truly blank slate as you watched it?
So I didn't know that Bill Pullman was the president, but I did know a little bit of the speech, like the big, our Independence Day. Didn't know who said it. Well, I knew it was the president. So that was great. I love Bill Pullman. He is the best.
Yes. Confirmed.
And, I was really surprised how many one-liners were in it. I was expecting it to be, I don't know, a little bit more serious than it was. I guess I didn't realize it was going to be as fun of a ride.
I mean, it's pretty serious. The first lady dies.
Yeah, humanity is threatened, but
a lot of people die, including the first lady. which is very sad. It does. I don't know. For me, it does that thing that's very hard for a movie like this, where it remains a good time while also taking the death and destruction seriously. Like, you're constantly seeing Pullman be upset about the fact that people are dying, struggling with it. Like, you get that people are dying and it means something in the movie, but it still manages to stay fun and breezy. And that's like a tough thing to do that I think a lot of movies don't do well.
Except Will Smith, though. He's cool and calm and collected the entire movie, even though he thinks like his wife and semi-adopted son have maybe blown up in New York.
He's got no time for such
You know, he's like, I got to punch aliens and give one-liners.
Yeah.
He is the biggest one-liner enthusiast in the movie.
Take Arnold's most one-liner 80s movies, maybe Running Man or Commando, and double it, and you've got Will Smith in this movie. Like, it was like
he's not that bad.
No, it was line after line, man, and this one just nonstop.
You've spoken like a man who hasn't watched Running Man in a while. There's more Arnold one-liners in 10 minutes of Running Man than this entire movie.
You had to split.
Exactly. Like I mean, Will Smith is definitely the offender of that here for the most part, but I don't know. Like, it never feels like too much. And also, none of them are so eye-rolly that it takes you out of it, or at least took me out of it.
Can I do one of my first favorite lines of the film? Because honestly, my notes are all just quotes from the movie. My favorite line, it's kind of an aside. It's on the TV during one of the news broadcasts early on. And they're like, officials are asking Americans to stop firing their guns at the spaceship.
Because it could cause, what does it say, an interdimensional war or something?
Not Americans. The quote verbatim is, once again, the LAPD is asking Angelinos not to fire their guns at the visitor spacecraft, which I found rather amusing. No, it's just funny. It's probably all of America, but it's just the thing we caught was the LA newscast. But yeah, you may inadvertently trigger an interstellar war.
Well, and the first attack does happen in Los Angeles to the nice lady from Saved by the Bell, the college years. So I guess the question becomes, did the Angelinos shooting at these things cause the war?
No. Caused the war.
How dare you?
Is Mr. Russell Case actually did get snatched 10 years ago, did get probed, and they even said he's dumb as a rock, and they put him back on Earth and went, all right, we got this planet. This is no problem. Because,
do you think he was taken by these specific aliens? I never thought too hard about this.
Yes, I don't think there's another. It's not like these are the Vulcans and the Andorians were like a different one that grabbed them 10 years ago. No, these are the ones. He says, welcome back, boys, or hello, boys, I'm back.
Oh, yeah.
I like that theory. I love that theory because I thought he was crazy the whole movie. I was like, yeah. I was kind of doing the same thing all the other characters were, but thinking of the fact that maybe he did actually get abducted and they were like, oh, yeah, humanity's stupid. We got this. This is no problem.
That's how I took it.
Yeah, that's great. That's now my new running theory for the film.
This is why we're here, to just take all the information and parse it together. Come up with the best possible takeaway. Also, we're jumping around here so we can skip to the end a little bit. I don't know if you know this. I'm sure, Kimmi, you don't know this because you didn't know Bill Pullman was the president until about 2 hours ago. So the original ending of this movie, which was shot and on the DVD, which I owned, was originally had Russell Case being disallowed to fly because of his drinking. And he showed up in his biplane crop duster and flew that into the alien ship. That was the original ending of the movie.
Huh.
And I think I like it better.
There's a little bit of a timing issue to that I think was problematic. I don't know how he got home, got the thing, came back.
I think he had to steal a missile too to attach it to the crop. There's a whole little side story in that.
Wow, that is a serious alternate ending.
I do remember that on the DVD though.
I like that he gets to be part of the Air Force though, because there's a great kind of bit of unity after that big president speech, and you're seeing the eclectic bunch that are going out because it's whoever's left that knows how to fly is going up. There's something really uniting about that because you don't necessarily see a lot of the rest of the world fighting. So it's fun that you see this eclectic group of Americans that are no, we're taking it down.
Yeah. Well, and there's something really smart hidden in the writing of this movie, which is that every one of these characters, in a way that it doesn't spend too much time bringing it to your attention, but every one of these characters kind of gets their thing. They get their, be it Goldblum, gets his wife back, which is the thing he's fighting for. Will Smith gets to go to space. Russell Case gets to stick it to the aliens that took him. They're all on this journey, but it does a really clever job in a big budget action movie of getting these characters through an arc
Even the teenage daughter is, she has her like virginity arc, and she has like 4 words of dialogue in the whole movie.
That's right. I mean, that kid was just like, it's the end of the world. It's now or never. He went for it. You got to respect
Miss
that.
Doubtfire daughter? Am I wrong in
Yes,
remembering her
exactly.
face? Okay. Speaking of faces.
Also, the guy was Andrew Keegan from Baywatch.
Yeah. And her brother, notable too, but like this movie has a bunch of recognizable character actors. Just the president's cabinet alone. You got the Wonder Years dad in the background. You got Ferris Bueller's dad in the background. You got James Reemhorn, who's one of those iconic character faces. Once you know him, you're like, oh, that guy. You know, he's in that guy Hall of Fame.
Robert Loggia.
Yeah, Robert
Loggia is one of my all-time favorite, like, who's that guy? Character actors. He was the most well-known, of course, for being the coach in a underseen 80s classic Necessary Roughness, where Kathy Ireland played the kicker and Jason Bateman played the wide receiver.
Is that 80s or early 90s? But I believe you.
I don't know. Could be. Sinbad was a defensive end. I can keep going.
Sinbad,
I had such an obscure pull when I was watching this. The president's daughter, like the little 3-year-old girl, I was like, that's the girl from Scott Pilgrim, the one of the evil exes.
Yeah, Mae Whitman, also Arrested Development. She was recurring on there as well. The original.
I noticed those eyebrows anywhere.
Yeah.
The sequel took a lot of heat because there was like a sequel that came out way, way, way too late and was not good at all, called, I think it was Independence Day Resurgence. The one thing I remember from that movie is that they took a ton of heat for recasting Mae Whitman as Micah Monroe.
I watched the trailer after I saw the movie. John made me watch it. He was like, no, you have to see this though also before you start talking about the movie. And I was like, what? Who is this daughter?
They basically were like, the original daughter is still this really good actor in the right age range. And they were just like, you recast her to just pretty her up was what everyone on the internet was saying. And so, I mean, obviously Micah Monroe is great, but yeah, the movie took a lot of heat for recasting the daughter.
So I was going to ask you, Cameron, I've actually never seen the sequel. As we know, I was not the biggest fan of this one. I never bothered, but a lot of people didn't. You don't have much memory of it. Do you have any idea what the kind of premise was of how they bring it back?
God, no, I don't. It's so
a mini-sode follow-up for this.
We might have to do one. I remember Jesse T. Usher, I think is his name, who was like a Next Big Thing, comes back as Will Smith's, I guess, son-in-law, Vivica Fox's son, and he is the lead in the movie. And like his dad, Stephen Hiller, Will Smith, who does not come back for the movie because he was smart, is like, revered as one of the, like George Washington or something. And then like, I think the aliens come back and he has to save the day. I don't remember.
I remember a lot of, Goldblum and his dad and others do come back for the movie. Bill Pullman is back for the second one. So I might. Yeah,
Will Smith was the one that didn't. And the actual storyline was very fuzzy, but for everything I love about this movie, that one does the opposite. And also, like, the worst thing you can be as a big budget action movie is just forgettable. And that was very forgettable. And also, you're never going to, like, having a sequel come that late is always really tough. Like, you definitely did not strike while the iron was hot 20 years later or whatever it was. But yeah, nothing to talk about with that one.
Doesn't sound like
I don't need to see it then.
No one does talk about it. Well, the movie, we might lock you in for a mini-sode rewatch.
Let's do it. And it's funny, the movie, it spurned a series of like disaster porn movies in its wake because Independence Day did so well. Titanic, Armageddon, Deep Impact, Volcano, Dante's Peak all came out within 2 years of Independence Day's release. But for some reason, it took God knows how long for there to be an actual sequel. There's probably a story there. I mean, I can't imagine everyone didn't want a sequel right away. So
it is wild.
I don't know what that story is. I did not do that much of a deep dive. So
it is kind of crazy because none of those actors can do any action sequences at this point. They're all like getting up there.
Well, the sequel is very much like their children. It's the Mae Whitman character from this movie, and then the son. It's about them and their generation also kind of like stepping up and now saving the world again. It's kind of neat. Everyone else just shows up for like a glorified cameo.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum's just like, dear God, it's happening again.
Pretty much. This is Goldblum at his absolute highest.
I told my wife, I said, this might be the last time he acted and wasn't just Jeff Goldblum, because he's turned up to Goldblum over the years.
I would argue that Goldblum is always at his peak.
I know, but he's like not going full, like the way Walken is now almost the character of Walken that people imitate. Like that's what Goldblum is now of himself. Yeah. I think this was the last time he was still slightly performing and not just hemming.
So Kimmi, let's talk about the action in this movie, because like, I feel like it still holds up pretty well considering how, I mean, we're almost, 30 years away from when this came out. I feel like it still holds up pretty well. And I think that's because this is one of the last movies that didn't use CGI. Like almost all of the effects in this movie are practical.
That's crazy.
Tons of miniature work for sure.
Yeah, tons of miniature.
I definitely noted that too when like they were blowing up scenes and stuff. You're just like, wow, they don't use fire anymore.
Oh, yeah. This movie posits the idea, what if everyone dies by fire?
Yeah,
everyone dies by fire.
I did note that there's like so much fiery death on screen. Other than the vice president, I think everyone's death is like flambe. Just you're shot into a fiery. Well, it's funny too somehow. Because when the ships shoot things, for the most part, they're shooting like green lasers. Everything like they're going between like cool futuristic lasers and like caveman fire. And there's like no in between. And the technology there seems a little strange. Also, this movie posits, what if we flip over all the cars? Like every action set piece involves like 3 or 4 cars just being like thrown into the air.
I think most people got killed by flying car than by anything else, especially on the highways.
Probably. I mean, nothing says future like flying car, but I think they meant it differently. But yeah, it's the key to practical effects is miniature work and just flipping over random cars to make it look like something's happened.
Yeah, there's some composite shots where you can tell they did CGI the fire, and you can kind of tell what's what and what was some kind of a real explosion, but some of the fake fire does look bogus. Cameron, tell me if I'm crazy or not. I swear that I remember this from 30 years ago now, that every trailer showed the White House blowing up as like their big money shot in the trailer. But then when we went to the theater, you actually saw the helicopter in front also blowing up because it was never in the trailer shot.
Right. Like you don't get the specific trailer shot. Yeah. The one that it's like a little bit of a Mandela effect, I think. The one that everyone really remembers is that I don't know what the name of the building is, that tall round
library
building
tower in LA.
Yeah, the first explosion. That's the one everyone remembers as the White House, I think.
I have to commend the film too, because going into this blind, as one of those rare people who had no idea what they were going in for, I was so like flabbergasted when the White House blew up so early into the film, because that's the one thing you come into the film knowing, or at least I did, was that that's going to happen. And then when the title card or like the screen went black and it popped up and it was like July 3rd, I was like, fuck, it's only the 3rd?
Yeah, it definitely, I think that's why they were so willing to give it away in the trailers, is because it really isn't what the story of the movie is about. The movie is about how this group of ragtag people who all happen to know each other and have dated each other, but that's a story for another day. I love when movies do that, by the way, where you get a group of random people, but by random, I mean like they're all like ex-husband and ex-wife, and like there's 6 degrees of separation from every single person. But yeah, like, you know, like Vivica A. Fox, you know, just happens to be with the vice president because of course she is. Or I'm sorry, the first lady, because of course she is. Yeah, it's really about kind of how this like group of people, when pushed to the brink, puts their talents together and kind of saves the world. It really is kind of a ragtag save the world movie with just a lot of cool shit in the beginning blowing up.
Yeah, it is funny that you mentioned the top 8 or so people are all paired off together and then somehow meet the other several pairs.
There's 3 love stories. There's 3 love stories in this movie.
I love that everyone ends up at Area 51. Like, nobody knew it existed, but one guy there, and everybody ends up there.
Yeah, actually,
I love when Will Smith's like, no, it's there. I just flew over it. Let's just go that way. That is probably, 16-year-old Cameron who saw this in the theater. That is probably my favorite moment in the movie, when he's like, there's no such thing as Area 51. I don't know what you've heard. And when James Reborn, just in his scuzziest, greatest moment, just says, actually, Mr. President, that's not entirely accurate. I'm just like, oh, shit, now there's trouble in River City. This is awesome.
It was pretty great, too, because that was one thing I was like kind of feeling a little bummed about. I was just like, why are they so surprised there's aliens? This is the American government.
Yeah, I think it helped. It helped with not having everyone seem dumb. that they were just like, come on, that's not true. And then the one guy's like, actually, some of us know about it. I love that little detour to Area 51. And then they go on the tour and they meet crazy old Brent Spiner from Star Trek. And he's just having the best day ever and gets yelled at by the president.
He's been waiting to do his presentation on that spaceship for 30 years.
Yes, his PowerPoint was flawless.
He had it ready to go. Appearance by Adam Baldwin there. Not a Baldwin.
The best non-Baldwin.
I don't know about that. His politics have gotten nutty over the years.
Oh, God. Adam Baldwin is the guy he's like the only guy in the movie that fires a gun. He like every situation that requires shooting is Adam Baldwin. Also, he goes from being like a liaison at Area 51 to doing all sorts of odd jobs when the stuff's going on. He just kind of like falls in as like government guy 4 and just starts doing anything that the other government people are not doing. It's just like good for him for staying busy, man. Like he's doing the Lord's work. I love that guy. Also, let's talk about Harvey Fierstein, because when you need someone to play like a super out gay guy and Nathan Lane is just too nuanced for you, you go to Harvey Fierstein. That guy has been playing the same exact role forever.
It was a little like Mrs. Doubtfire mini reunion.
It was. He is just like, he is a lot. Even in this movie, which it's funny, there's a few characters in this movie who are kind of in a different movie. And Harvey Fierstein is like the main offender.
Okay, one thing, I have a question. Can we clarify, what is Jeff Goldblum's job?
So they never tell you exactly what he is. And Shawn, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this as well. But they never tell you exactly what he is. What it sounds like is he seems to work in the private sector dealing with like satellites, not like satellite dishes for TV, but like satellites that orbit the Earth. And he works. Yeah. He works in some capacity on those. They say he went to MIT, I think they said. And so like he clearly works in like the tech sector on satellites, even though his dad thinks he sells like dish TVs out of a radio.
Yeah, like they rag on him for his career. I guess because he's married to like the president's, or he was married to the president's like secondhand man. And he's kind of off bumbling doing his own stuff. But so Harvey Fierstein is his, I'm assuming assistant, his partner, whatever. At one point when he's about to like die and he's driving through the city, he's like, I'm calling my therapist. And he's like, push me through to him for $300 an hour. I should be able to talk to him at home. And you're like, what do they do that he can afford a $300 an hour therapist?
Yeah, it's a little unclear exactly what they do.
The opening of the movie, he's working at SETI, like the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, like those satellites. So he's part of that whole group who were all in their pajamas when they caught wind of a thing.
Fierstein, no, I don't think Fierstein was part of that.
I'm talking about Jeff Goldblum. You're asking what he does. Like his job is secret because he is working with like...
No, he wasn't part of SETI, was he?
Yeah, I thought he was just like in another
private sector
office.
Oh, I might have mistaken and thought that
he doesn't get involved until we show up, and he's the guy who figures out that the satellite dishes are screwing up television, and we can't figure out why. That's when he gets involved. Also,
yeah, because I feel like he would have a better connection to the government with his binary printout than having to drive 4 hours of the 6 hours they have left.
In his dad's car.
No, you are correct. I'm sorry, I was mixing up early scenes there.
Also, you know what's crazy about this movie? And I've seen this movie probably 100 times, and I've never noticed it really until today. You don't meet Will Smith, who's the kind of de facto lead, or at least lead with Goldblum and Pullman. You don't meet Will Smith until like the minute 25.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, they keep introducing more and more characters, and the ships are starting to come over the cities, and then finally they cut to him and Vivek.
I mean, he slept in, so I get it.
Because he's on Pacific time, guys.
There you go.
That's true. And he slept in. Like, he was off that day. He was
East Coast bias continues.
Always late for the news.
Yeah, this is the movie, Kimmi. This is the movie that made Will Smith a megastar.
Yeah, I can't believe that I just, so I'm a younger middle millennial, I would say. So this came out when I was a kid. So I did grow up with Fresh Prince. So like I knew of Will Smith, but I just always assumed he was huge megastar. I didn't realize that this was the definitive.
So Fresh Prince was happening. I'll give you the big Willie style timeline. Fresh Prince was happening, and that kind of put him on the radar. He had done Bad Boys the year before in 95, and then he was cast in this, and this is the movie that blew him up. Yeah. Ironically, he was so young in the game that he got to do that thing that every great black actor gets, which is they didn't want him in the role on account of a bunch of racist studio suits said black actors don't perform at the box office. So they tried like hell not to cast him. Now, 3-4 years later, he was dubbed Mr. 4th of July because every movie he made, opened on the 4th of July and made $1 billion. But yeah,
he was a summer blockbuster guy. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was a part of the long line of Will Smith of Eddie Murphy and Denzel Washington and all these other black actors that people say can't possibly be
But
stars.
Sony execs had leaked emails saying black actors can't do overseas and things.
Yeah. Ironically, as well, the first choice for that role was actually Eddie Murphy.
Oh, wow.
Who I don't know why. I don't know if he passed on it or if it never really got to him. But Eddie Murphy was originally the idea. Ethan Hawke passed on the role. I guess when they decided to go white with it, Ethan Hawke passed on the role. And they were also considering Tom Cruise, Johnny Depp, Keanu Reeves, and Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure every A-list name was considered.
Of all people.
Considering the budget and the Devlin and Emmerich had come off of Stargate, which was a hit. So I'm sure they had a bit of carte blanche with that. But I don't know if you've seen this, but there's a reel or TikTok passing around lately with Ethan Hawke talking about how he passed on this movie.
I have not seen that.
I've caught it on Instagram, I think, somewhere. But he's talking about how he got the script. He's riding with a friend of his in the car, and he's reading the script. And he's like, all these lines are so bad. This dialogue so cheesy. And he said he tossed the script out the window and told his agent no. He goes, then I go see it opening night, and he goes, all these lines are getting huge laughs. And I'm like, oh, darn it. Like,
well, that checks out. That checks out for Ethan Hawke, who, given his druthers, Ethan Hawke would just be making, Flannery O'Connor movies. He basically went to the James Franco school of I'd rather be, making small, independent, weird movies, which I respect. I respect when you look like an A-lister, but you want to be like a real actor. I get that. It wasn't the right role for Ethan Hawke. He did all right. He's fine. Don't worry about it.
No, nobody's worried. But yeah, clearly it was written as like cocky guy. Will Smith, he embodied it. He did well. It kind of became his niche for a while because
Roland Emmerich fought for him.
His Men in Black character and others are not too dissimilar than, fast talking cocky guy. But Eddie Murphy would have
been a choice though. Like it would have been an entirely different movie, but I would have loved to see Eddie Murphy and Jeff Goldblum riffing in that spaceship.
Eddie Murphy is famous for taking a couple serious movies and turning them into Eddie Murphy vehicles, because Beverly Hills Cop had none of the humor because it was written for Stallone. And then not Big Trouble in Little China, The Golden Child, another one, was like a Russell Mulcahy action vehicle. And once Eddie Murphy was the lead, it was fully Eddie Murphy-fied, probably for the better.
Also, not for nothing, but Eddie Murphy's probably closer to the right age for that role. I mean, Will Smith did a great job, but I mean, he was a year off of playing a high schooler on a sitcom, and now we're pretending he's been in the Navy long enough to possibly be an astronaut. And so, like,
when Will they called him
probably
Captain,
too young. Yeah,
I was like, whoa,
Doogie Howser over here.
He does the job. It never gets in the way of the movie, but he does feel young, especially when you got Goldblum and Pullman and all these other really great actors that are closer to 35, 40. He definitely, I could see Eddie Murphy. I could see it. I think he'd do a good job.
Speaking of young, Harry Connick Jr., fresh-faced as the goose to his Maverick, 100% felt like he was
that was clearly
goose
the
energy.
Order. Yeah. That was the order. Yeah, I also learned today, doing the research, because I'm a professional, Kimmi, that Matthew Perry was offered the Harry Connick Jr. role and turned it down.
Oh my!
I mean, he turned out all right too. Don't worry about him. Well, I mean, not now, but at the time. Sorry,
no, he did okay.
He did all right. Don't worry about him. Also, a more weird trivia about the movie is that Kevin Spacey was the first choice for the president, Thomas Whitmore. It was actually written for Spacey, who was a high school friend of Dean Devlin, but the studio felt he lacked star power.
Oh, they were like 6 months too early thinking that, because that man a year later was a double Oscar winner.
Yeah, I mean, in 96, when this movie came out, Seven and The Usual Suspects, I think both came out in 96.
95 was both of them.
Sorry, what did he win the Oscars for? Was it
supporting for
American Beauty?
American Beauty, that's right.
He won supporting as well for, was it Usual Suspects or... Yeah,
I didn't think he won supporting. I thought he only won for.
Yeah, no, I believe he's a two-timer.
But I know we had a different opinion of him back then, but I feel like he would have been more sus as a president.
He doesn't feel like, first of all, we dodged a bullet there just in general, but like he doesn't look. Kevin Spacey in that time period was probably the best actor on the planet Earth. Like, he was on a run that was insane. He would have done a great job and it would have been good. But like, there's something very all-American about Pullman, where he feels like a fighter pilot. He feels like he just feels right for the role. Is he as good an actor as Kevin Spacey at that time? Probably not. But like, he was just right. To me, he feels right for the role in a way that I don't know that Spacey. It would have been a very different role with Spacey in it.
We've seen him play a lot of villains, including a bad politician on House of Cards. So maybe we're all clouded by the idea that he's a sus guy. Never mind.
I've seen K-Pax. I know what he can do.
No,
Kimmi, have you seen K-Pax?
I have not.
That is the side episode, Shawn. We need to have Kimmi watch
That movie's not near enough of a zeitgeisty movie to do an episode about.
I got news for you. Neither is Independence Day Resurgence, which I had to look up the title of because I didn't remember. How crazy
it is very much a forgotten attempt at resurrecting that.
I didn't even remember the title. I thought it was Resurrection at first. I wrote down Independence Day Resurrection on our doc and then had to double check and change it.
Any would work.
Yeah. Couple other acting things I found discovering too. Matthew Broderick was considered for the role that Jeff Goldblum did. I'm sure they would have gone different because Judd Hirsch, who does play his father, was originally intended for Martin Landau.
Is that because he played that hacker kid in what was that movie called?
War Games.
War Games.
Possibly. And then we've talked about the vice president a few times. Mary McDonnell, Dances with Wolves fame. She was the mom of Donnie Darko, president herself on Battlestar Galactica.
That's who she is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
Cameron, she's added to our friend of the show.
Oh, she's friend of the show. I didn't even notice. What else has she been in?
She is the sister / mom of Emma Roberts in Scream 4. She has a small part.
Oh, yeah.
But she has shown up now twice for movies we've done. We covered all the Scream sequels, after.
Yeah, Kimmi, once you show up in a movie more than once, you become a friend of the show. So,
I love that.
Yeah, Mary McDonnell, friend of the show. I didn't even realize. I forgot about her small but strong role as the mother in Scream 4.
Joining greats like Diane Wiest, Frances Lee McCain, John Lithgow, and others.
Maybe she'll come back in Scream 7 because it seems like they're just
everybody is.
They're dusting off everyone that's died in the Scream movie to make us forget they fired Melissa Barrera.
Oh,
I don't forget.
Never mind that. Lost both their lead actresses who were women of color, both over weird circumstances. But yeah, let's just...
Wait, is she not coming back? I didn't know.
No, both Ortega and the other are gone.
Oh, shit. I thought maybe Jenna was in it.
I did too. I thought she was coming. Shawn, are you sure about that?
Yes, they're gone.
Are you breaking news right now?
No, this news broke a long time ago. Much like Aliens broke last year in real life, and we were also wrapped up in terrible politics. We didn't care.
Yeah, I love that. I love that we now live in a world. We now live in a world where we're pretty sure aliens are a thing, but everybody's like, I got my
Wait, what? They're in the seas? I thought they were drones.
I don't know. Call Tom DeLonge. He'll explain.
Yeah, he knows. He knows what's going on.
I'll wait for the album on it.
Tom DeLonge is the Arthur C. Clarke of his generation.
Where are you?
I'm so sorry. Let's get this thing back on track.
Yeah, let's get it back on track. At the top of the show, when the pre-record, we did mention Mars Attacks, which is a movie that's so near and dear to my heart. And watching this, it is so funny that they came out the same year because Mars Attacks went much more for biting satire, but they have some funny parallels about rednecks going at it and fighting them in the desert and some of the other things.
Independence Day. Actually, I read when I didn't put it on the doc because I didn't think it was interesting enough, but Independence Day actually rushed to get out before Mars Attacks.
Oh, wow.
They wrote the movie quickly and put it into production immediately to try to get out in front of Mars Attacks, which is weird because I don't think it would have mattered. They're totally
why were they threatened by that weird camp movie?
I don't think they knew what that movie was. I think they just knew it was a Tim Burton movie called Mars Attacks with Jack Nicholson.
But similar, just the idea of flying saucers and invading, it's enough for an executive to pump the brakes. But I want to ask the Canuck on the show here, Kimmi, did you find as a Canadian, because nowadays I think a lot of people have a nostalgia for that presidential speech, and this is our Independence Day, but it was clowned at the time. I know later on in years,
it was.
Entertainment Weekly says the cheesiest moment in the history of film. It's not always been a unanimous.
People are dead
love.
inside.
No. Watching it, it's funny. The parallel with Mars Attacks is because there is a jingoism and there is a rah-rah and American-centric idea to this movie. Of course, they keep 100%. It American-centric, but I think that's one of the funny things that Mars Attacks lampoons so well is how much it's rah-rah. Let's shoot nukes at it. All of it in Mars Attacks just clowns this exact kind of premise of let's just kill them all. And then that
is interesting. Kimmi, where do you land as a non-American? Where do you land here?
I'm so biased because I love Bill Pullman so much. And so I grew up with him as the dad in Casper. So I am on side with Bill Pullman no matter what he does or says. And I ate it. And maybe that's also too because we're at a weird spot politically right now. I'm sure everybody's patriotism is wavering a little bit. So I felt kind of nostalgic for the Americana of it all. We're not so far from Americana. We're literally neighbors. We share hot dogs. I bought it all. I bought it.
Was that a euphemism? We share hot dogs.
Our holidays the same weekend, guys. July 1st, July 4th. We have the same party weekend.
My dad went to high school with Bill Pullman. Sorry, that's a little bit backtracky, but my dad and Bill Pullman went to high school together. Same class, same high school, they knew each other.
That's pretty
so
cool.
I felt like I was friends with Bill Pullman growing up. Every time a movie would come out, it'd be like a little bit of a thing. But I just had to get that out there before I forgot. But I do it's funny when I watched this yesterday for the first time in a hot minute, and like it really kind of this is not a political show, and if you want to talk about politics, go to Twitter. But in watching it kind of blew me away how different the world is.
How pre 9/11 this movie was. Let's just say that.
Yeah, like the people coming together for the common good and all this stuff. It just like felt so antiquated and not like how the world is anymore. And that's like super sad. I love the movie even more because of it, but it is like, it's really sad that like I don't see the US like that anymore. Some of that
that's why I said nostalgia.
Yes, 1,000%. It's it really hit me for kind of the first time watching it, that like just how far the goalposts of movie.
I had a similar reaction, thinking that like some younger people will say COVID, but obviously if we were alive for it, like 9/11 was such a watershed bellwether moment that everything in our lives is before and after. I think I even said this in the pre-watch we were talking about it, but even seeing the Twin Towers in this movie, there's like a strange like, oh, this is the before times, like such everything was different after this, and we're still taking off our shoes at the airport.
God, that is one thing we should all come together, Republicans and Democrats, and demand we not take our shoes off.
If they can see your organs at this point when you go on the machine.
Exactly.
The rubber of your sneaker is not.
And we stopped the one guy who was trying to do the shoe bomb anyway. It's not like he got away with it.
Yeah, I mean, God, one guy tries to do a shoe bomb, and we've been doing this ever since. But like,
don't say it because we're all thinking it. Yes.
Yeah, but so many other things happen. And no one does a damn thing. It's very annoying. You know what? I'm not doing it. Next time I travel, I'm not taking my shoes off. And if they want to arrest me and send me to the gulag,
let's see how it works out for you. Please
is that the hill you want to die on?
Yes, it is the hill I want to die on. I will not stand for this shit anymore. You got to put the language warning on there now, Shawn.
Pullman's speech is obviously, it's a little longer, but it's one of the most iconic things from the movie. We could rattle off some we wrote down here.
Hold on. There's another scene that I think is a really great, that hits me even more probably than Pullman's speech, is a scene that I love, even though it doesn't scientifically, quote unquote, make sense, is that whole scene where Goldblum is explaining the end game and how they're going to win and how they're going to do it. Like that whole scene and how everyone kind of steps into it and takes their place in like the puzzle. I love that scene. I think that scene, the bait and switch with the getting rid of the shield, and then who could fly the thing and can it even fly, and all, like just everything about that scene is so well constructed, and like everyone has such great character beats in that. I think that scene, even more than the president's speech, is an all-timer for me.
Yeah, that worked for me.
That's the hard-hitting stuff you come to expect. Yeah, okay.
Well, again, this movie, she talked about nostalgia, but you have legitimate nostalgia for this movie as someone who watched it many times through the 90s. I remembered bits and pieces, but there's other things that were completely like, I completely forgot this subplot or this side story. So
can I just say, as the resident horror fan, the scene that got me, like that I was just like, holy shit, this movie, was in the Area 51 scene when they get the live alien and they're cutting him open, and all that stuff is great. But when he takes control in that surgery room and they're in like the watch room beyond, and he pushes the scientist guy up to the window and he's manipulating his vocal cords to speak English, I lost it. I had fists in the air.
Yeah.
Release me. He's like, can we have peace? No.
Die.
Yeah.
And then Pullman's like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's shoot some nukes at him.
Right.
It was great.
That's all he needed. He was like, I guess they're not nice after all. They've burnt down a third of the country, but it took that moment for us to be
personal.
Like, yeah, it took that moment for us to be like, you know what? I believe him. They are assholes. We're gonna blow them up.
Well, they did such damage and they couldn't have any comeback that he had to ask, like, can we have peace? And if he said no, he's like, all right, well.
Also, who's that guy? Like, who's that? Like, he speaks for the aliens? Like, he's just a fighter pilot. Like, do we ask Will Smith his questions about policy?
Well, they're telepathic, aren't they? I'm sure it's a hive mind thing. He probably got the okay.
I mean, I don't know. Is he like hive mind with the alien who has like the Windows 98 folder on the mothership, and he's using that to open the window? Are they all hive mind?
I will say for 1996, and I'm not saying it would have been better with CGI, but a little bit of just rubberiness to these aliens. They was not the most inspired design or look, I think, especially when they're talking to that one up in the mothership. It screamed like background guy at the cantina in 1977 Star Wars. Almost had like glitter eyes. Like it just kind of looked a little too like rubber masky. And I'm thinking like, Rob Bottin and these other guys were making these amazing effects in the early 80s and, practical
what's crazy
stuff
is
like that. This looks so not
It looked
great.
really good in the water when they were like showing the dead guys. They looked so good and like, but it's like they were clearly not when you see the 3 dead ones from the 60s, like in the whatever they're using to keep them looking normal and not decomposing. Like they looked really interesting and cool there, but then it was like anytime we got closer to them and they had to move, it was just like, never mind, guy in suit.
Yeah.
I don't think they planned the motion part. I think they were like, what would look really cool? Because they had more of a squid-like look to them. Like they look like they would be really efficient in water.
Well,
maybe
Shawn tells us that aliens come from the water now. So
this is true.
Them and the toadies. So yes,
the fact that I even got that reference, I'm so proud of myself.
Well, we always bring it back to either Taco Bell Pro Wrestling or 90s alternative rock. As we said, that's our Godwin's Law. But Pullman's speech, going back to that, his big speech is the most notable thing. But, Captain Hiller had, welcome to Earth. That's what I call a close encounter. I got to get me one of these. He was knocking them off. Weirdly, one of the most memorable lines is Goose Connick Jr. with the let's kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy, because that was in every trailer, I feel like, back in the day.
Yeah, that was a big one. I still like my all-time favorite. It's a little more of a deep cut. Is yes, this time without the oops. Goldblum's line after they go the wrong direction. He has a bunch of fun ones with he and Will Smith in the ship just killing time. Has a lot of my favorite lines. Fat lady, the fat lady, you're obsessed with fat ladies. Let's go. Like Goldblum is just, there was clearly no script that day. And those guys were just they were just having a good time.
I wrote that one.
I would have waited for them to die together for another hour or so. Like I would have been fine with it.
Right.
I'd like a whole nother movie about what these guys all did the next day.
I can tell you, ran away from the mothership debris that was going to kill millions of people on one side of the planet because they teased that the debris started to shoot down at the very end of the movie, and I'm like, okay, that's gonna. I took that to be debris from the crafts, not the mothership. Oh, where's that mothership going, man? Gravity. It's going to crash in Earth.
I don't know. Well, it's in the. I don't.
Pieces. I thought those were the pieces.
I don't pretend to know about space. But
remember, they said they lost communications with them 20 minutes ago, and they were crash landing down. And as they're finding them and walking, you start to see these massive pieces coming into the atmosphere.
But I thought those were pieces. I thought those were pieces from the destroyed.
Well, then my headcanon is they're all going to be running for their lives from that mothership.
No, I want a movie.
Like, see, son, I told you there'd be fireworks, and then they're like, "Now get in the car, we must go."
Yeah, now quickly, so we don't die. I just want a movie where like all the surviving people that we know and love are at like a Bennigan's the next day, just like drinking and getting lit and just having a good old time. Russell Case is got a picture like in the corner of like we remember you, and like his kids are drinking, and like everyone's just like, you know what, the world's saved. Let's have a good old time. That's guys, a movie I want.
We could use some alien invasion right about now. Like I could go for some world peace.
Yeah, I mean, look, we live in a world now where you might root for the aliens. And that's a shame.
Yeah, like we deserve it.
That's a shame. Yeah, I'm looking at our doc. The one we didn't say is, but I'm not Jewish. Well, nobody's perfect.
Well, so that's the one I did write down. My favorite line might be from his dad, Julius, played by Judd Hirsch. He looked over at her on the plane and goes, "All you need is love." John Lennon, smart man, shot in the back, very sad.
I love his. Great. I love his. Well, you don't really think it costs $30,000 for a toilet seat, $40,000 for a hammer, do you? Like, he's got some real zingers because he's really. Yeah. That's kind of why he's there. He doesn't have anything really to do with the plot. But again, another piece of smart writing, or even like him as a secondary character, he gets an arc. He gets his faith back. He's like all of these, like under all of the craziness of the action stuff and the fraud science and everything that's going on and the one-liners, there's a really smart script here that takes these characters and puts them through the arcs and gets them where they need to go. And like, it's a well-written action movie. It really is.
Can you
Yeah,
say
there
that
are
about
so many
any of the
webs.
follow-ups of the Devlin Emmerich collabos?
Okay, we're going there, are we?
I'm asking you honestly. I don't know. Godzilla, Day After Tomorrow, 10,000 BC, 2012.
The answer to that is the short answer is no. You can't say that about those. But I will say I have a soft spot in my heart for Moonfall, and I have a soft spot in my heart for Geostorm. They're movies that I think get the assignment. Like they're movies that like every Gerard Butler movie of the last 10 years. They get the assignment and they're not great, but they're not bad. They just go out there and they blow some shit up and they do their thing. And the world needs movies like that. Now, where I think Roland Emmerich gets in trouble is with movies like Midway and Day After Tomorrow and 10,000 BC, because those movies are boring. Like I'm fine with, and he did have some winners beforehand. The Patriot's great, Stargate's great. But yeah, the main thing is just don't be forgettable. If you're going to make a big budget action movie, just go for it. Does it make no fucking sense like Moonfall? Maybe, but at least it's fun. Like I much prefer Moonfall, where the whole plot of the movie is that the moon is literally falling on top of them, which is hilarious.
That's why I saw it.
I mean, yes, it's like I would much rather watch a movie like that because at least I'm entertained than like something where like The Day After Tomorrow where I'm just like, okay, get it. We're walking across snow. Can we move on? So yeah, Emmerich is to me is like the ultimate hit or miss director, but I have fun with most of them.
Well, Kimmi, you said you've seen most of the ones we mentioned, right? The other disaster porn. I keep saying disaster porn, but I swear that's like the catch-all term for his movies.
I've seen a few of them, but I will say, like, I haven't seen any of them more than once. And I would say that Independence Day has the most rewatchability. It's the least pessimistic. It's the most fun. So this, I would say, is it's definitely his best.
Oh my God, Kimmi, I love you.
This and Stargater are pretty good, I think, of ones that they collaborated on.
Shawn's not willing to say it. He's not willing to say it. No,
she's not wrong. Like that's an actual truism. Like it is not pessimistic, and that takes it a long way. I really do. I had a good time watching it this time. I don't love it. That's okay. I can like it.
Who is your favorite side character?
Probably his dad, Judd Hirsch's character, like you said, for the chiming in with like the obvious things the audience is thinking.
Kimmi?
I would agree. I'm so happy for him that he got to ride on the Air Force One. Like he was just a Lyft. He was just an Uber drive.
Yeah, he really, late in life, he got to live an exciting weekend with the president. He's just out there living the dream. Yeah. And also, the correct answer is James Rebhorn, who plays the most dastardly director of defense or whatever he is. The guy just wants to bomb shit.
He is good in that. I agree. The only other major player we didn't kind of name check is again, watching the movie for 10 minutes, I thought she was the vice president, but Jeff Goldblum's ex-love, Margaret Collin, playing the character Constance Spano, who I guess is the chief of staff, is what I gathered when I realized she's random white guy was the vice president.
She's a little bit like Adam Baldwin, and then she's just kind of doing a little bit of everyone's job.
I want to apologize to her officially. I have mistaken that woman for Elizabeth Perkins more than once on movies because they both have a similar kind of pointy chin and hair.
I don't know that I could name a single other movie she's in.
That's what I'm saying. I think I've seen Elizabeth Perkins a time or two, the woman from Big and a few other movies, and thought
I love Elizabeth Perkins.
I thought she was this actress, which is my bad.
Yeah, I mean she's great in this movie too, but I don't recognize her from anything else. Like what else
TV.
Did she do?
I think she's done some stints on TV. She's been on a few dramas and sitcoms and stuff.
And also shout out to Vivica A. Fox for being like a low-key hero the whole movie and getting no credit for it. She was just picking up people in that truck, like rescuing everybody, even that crazy guy who was preaching the end of the world. She tried to give him a lift, and the dog for surviving.
I love, my favorite is when you're like, oh shit, the dog's gonna die, and then she calls the dog and it gets its awesome close up.
Oh, that hero shot of him jumping off the car. I love this.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. How can anybody not love this?
Well, even in 96, I was annoyed. I'm like, just slam the door shut and I'll kind of buy that fireball didn't get you.
I was just gonna say that is also not how fire works at all.
It's got the force to shoot up all the cars, as we've talked about. Every car ever gets shot up in the air because of the fireball, but it won't go in that little
the little room. You just have to get out of its direct vision.
When that dog jumped in, hit the door, and I'll let it go. I'll forget it.
He didn't know anybody was hiding in there.
Yeah, you got to get out of the fire's eye line.
Well, the fireball is sentient, it turns out. Speaking of the fireball being sentient, I actually, when the ships are coming down before they reveal themselves, they are nothing but a fireball. Because the plane, speaking of all the fiery deaths, they send a plane right into the fireball, and it just shows them all get incinerated immediately.
Yeah, that was poor planning on the government's part.
Why are the ships coming down in the in a cloud, but also a massive fireball around it. But I'll let that go. It's sci-fi.
Also, while we're cleaning up loose ends on this episode, I feel remiss that we haven't talked enough about Randy Quaid. We've talked about Russell Case. We haven't talked about Randy Quaid. Now, how different are those two people? Debatable. He is a crazy person by most accounts, but he is possibly one of the greatest characters in the history of film as Cousin Eddie in the Vacation movies. And for that alone, I low-key love him, because there's another thing you need to learn about me. While Independence Day was my favorite movie when I was like 16, one of my top 5 or 6 movies when I was like 16 to 18 was National Lampoon's Vacation. And another movie I can just quote all the time. He is so good in those movies. And he just like, he's a complete lunatic, but he's like Gary Busey in that every once in a while he's just punches above his weight and is in these great movies. And this was kind of, I think, the last one for him, other than, Vacation sequels, where like he kind of fell off the face of the earth after this.
Didn't he stop paying his taxes?
Yeah, I was gonna say he kind of went method and started becoming these characters. He is
Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes stopped paying his taxes. They're still giving him roles.
Nick Cage.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it doesn't usually end well. But yeah, he's just such a good Randy Quaid is so good at being one kind of thing, but he's like the best at it.
Crazy can play crazy.
Yeah, like this role and Cousin Eddie are enough to get him into the Acting Hall of Fame for me. Those are two absolute winners.
Oh, and he's such a hero. Like the finale where he gets to be the one that takes the ship down. So perfect.
That's, again, perfect writing, where it's like the president has the shot, he fails, no one's left. And then, of course, it's Russell Case, played by Randy Quaid. And then, of course, the thing doesn't work. Like, it's just, I'm going to keep going to this. I'll die on this hill. Like, this is a very well-written movie. Does it have dumb science? Sure. Do people occasionally say stupid 90s, 80s one-liners? Yes. But like, this is a
that should be in the pro column.
Yeah, well, fair. It is for me. But Shawn, you know how Shawn is. But like, yeah, it's the actual writing on this is the character work in this movie is really smart. Yeah, like
it's all right.
There's a million other ways that ending could have been done that would have been less impactful.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
He does have the best arc because he got probed in his butthole by the aliens, and then later he flies up into their butthole and takes them out. So
that's true.
Poetic justice.
He comes literally full circle.
That thing opens up like the little four corners, like on my wife's
it's a butthole.
A little bit with me.
It's a butthole.
I'm like, yes, it is.
It's a butthole. 100% it's a butthole. That's what I'm talking about. Great writing. The figurative butthole to the literal butthole.
I'll probe you right back.
That's right. Let that be a lesson to you. Is there anything we didn't? Is there anything we haven't?
No, we kind of covered it. Let's ask Kimmy some of these wrap-up questions we always do. Are you glad you took the time and finally knocked this one off your list?
Yeah, I'm ashamed I did not see it sooner.
No shame.
No shame here, Kimmy. This is what we do. We're doing the Lord's work. We're like Dr. House, but for people who haven't seen certain movies.
Oh, wow.
Sure.
Sorry, wasn't sure where that was going when I started talking.
So we're scrapping the idea of doing Resurgence because it's so not memorable. And
I don't want to watch it. I just don't want to watch it.
Yeah, it seems like it didn't do what it needed to do, which, again, now that Disney kind of owns the Fox library, I wouldn't be surprised to see them try one more time with this because there's something there with this world and the story and the fallout of what they could do with it. Yeah,
please let me pitch on a requel of Independence Day, where we only basically gloss over what kind of happened in the second one. But yeah, there's a world. Look, Pullman, those 3 actors, I would watch them again. Like, there's a world where we get some of these people back together, but I don't want it to be their kids and shit. I want these guys back. I want Ghostbusters Afterlife this shit.
That's the thing, is that the aliens themselves, like, this isn't their movie. It's not a universe that I'm necessarily like, ooh, I want to see more about those aliens. It is about these characters. So you would have to bring back some of the OGs or it wouldn't be worth doing.
That's why I said I would rather watch a movie about whatever they did the next day and their characters and their charisma and all that stuff than some other Independence Day alien movie where they're not really part of the movie and we're just doing younger people. I have no interest in that. I want Goldblum, Will Smith, and Bill Pullman around a table. That's what I want. Randy Quaid.
That's a lot of de-aging.
Sorry. No de-aging. They can be whatever they are. It can be now.
Oh, you were saying next day. That's why I was not sure.
Oh no, I think that ship has sailed, sadly. But I mean, if you're going to do an Independence Day movie, those 3 guys have to be front and center. Like, they would have to be. No one gives a shit what their kids are doing or anything like that. It needs to be about the mains. It's like, are those relationships still intact?
Yeah.
Are those two still married? Like, did Goldblum get back with what's her name? Did they stay together? Did Will Smith stay married? Did that probably gets answered in the sequel? I don't remember. But like, did Pullman ever remarry? Like, I want to know what's going on with those characters. I don't give a shit about the.
I need to go find out if they stayed married because she was a stripper. We know that's not long term. It's not going to work.
And that
he's been to Earth.
dolphin engagement ring.
This was a simpler time, Kimmy. Back when lots of jewelry had dolphins on it. Back in
crime against humanity. That engagement ring. My God.
You're young. You don't remember '96 like I do. That shit was everywhere. Dolphins and Beanie Babies were everywhere.
All right, now don't knock Beanie Baby.
That's not a knock. I'm not knocking dolphins either.
Oh, I'm knocking dolphins.
Yeah. I like the idea of a requel cam though, where you said like the aliens come back and they've like patched all the Apple problems and the PC problems that they got from Goldblum, but like now we have also advanced viruses, so like he has a more advanced virus to give them, and it still fucks up the ship.
He's like, no, they're running. It doesn't work because they're running like malware, a malware tracker, and you're like, damn it, they thought of everything.
Oh, they're using Nordic antivirus.
Oh, they've got McAfee. We're screwed. Yeah, see, that's what this is the movie. I want no aliens. I want all the surviving people, both in real life and in the movie, getting together on the anniversary of the 4th of July and having to survive something else. It could be a robbery, a kidnapping. I don't need aliens. I don't need any of it. It could be someone kidnaps the former president's daughter and he calls in his crew, which is like Goldblum and Smith and Robert Loggia if he's still alive.
I don't know if he is.
I don't know either, and I'm not going to look it up. But that's what I want. That's the Independence Day sequel I need.
Yeah, I would vibe with that.
So, Kimmy, what other blind spot movies you got? Are there other genres? Other, sci-fi movies? What are other big ones that you have that the people need to know about?
Guys, it's movies like this. It's action movies.
What can we shame you about now?
It's
no shame.
It's action movies, but like anything that's not considered immediate camp. Like I've seen a lot of, martial arts movies, but it's these huge budget movies. I don't know. They never.
Die Hard?
I've seen Die Hard.
I was going to say, John Wick?
Oh, yeah. I love John Wick.
I was going to say, if you hadn't seen Die Hard, I was going to say, stay tuned next week for Kimmy's next episode.
That is a Christmas film. Of course I've seen it.
Die Hard's also true. Like on our document we share with people. Like it's one of those movies. Like if you haven't seen it, certainly say that one.
There's 4 or 5 that are like kind of the ones that we are going to really struggle to get. Like who hasn't? Titanic was one of them, and we actually did that one. But like Jurassic Park, Back to the Future, Die Hard. There's a few that are just going to be Wizard of Oz. They're going to be really hard to find someone that, although kids these days probably haven't seen Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, young people, that'll be easy.
We don't want to talk to young people. I'm not talking to those kids.
They're pretty lousy. Not the broad stroke and tired.
I got no time for anybody under
generation
32. Yeah. Putting the cutoff at 32.
I don't want a sex scene in my movie. Go away.
Yeah, get out of here with that nonsense.
Is that the new thing?
Yeah, like
young people are going Puritan. In case you haven't noticed, the fascism on the rise. Like the youngs need that. They want to be spanked. They want authoritarianism.
Well, I also think like to me the sex scene thing also, and this is a completely different episode. So if you only showed up to hear about Independence Day, you can probably turn us off. But we're going to keep talking. I think the sex scene thing is more about like this generation has been raised on the idea that actual porn is one click away and has been since they were 0. And so if they wanted to watch sex, I think they are just like, we'll just go to Pornhub. And so I think they've just been raised in a different culture.
It's more siloed, strangely, than it was with us, where like it's everywhere. But now it's such a shameful, private, siloed thing that if you see it in the mainstream, like you're so uncomfortable. And yes, we're making broad strokes, but there's article after article about this of kids saying this kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, they're dumb because sex scenes in movies can be awesome or they can be terrible. Either way, I'm here for them. That's my hot take.
What is this? This is like the soapbox episode. But yeah, we are in such a more secular world now and culture and society that it's not weird for kids to start going toward more Puritan things because there's not a obvious central kind of church or religion that we cling to. That's why all these weird pop culture holidays keep popping up, like May the 4th and all these other things. People are latching on to other things because there's no real kind of main religious artery of that. So it's weird that kids will find it elsewhere on flat earth societies and other weird things.
We've finally started getting dongs in movies, and if the kids take that away from me, I'm going to be real mad.
Kimmi has worked hard to get dongs in movies. And she'll be damned if the kids ruin that for everybody.
Can you imagine if spoiler alert, Nosferatu did not have that dong scene?
Also, A Better Man. I just watched A Better Man with my girlfriend, and there's Sebastian Stan throwing full dong in there. That's been on her bucket list for years. So like everybody.
Oh man, the dong scene Sebastian Stan did for that Pam Anderson and Tommy Lee show was phenomenal.
I don't think that was really his dong.
No, but it was phenomenal.
Well, okay, that's I never saw it.
Oh, you need to see it. You need to see it.
I saw the actual tape years ago where he's steering.
Yeah, I was going to say I lived it. So, but yes, he does it again. So if you want to see the actual,
this has been Independence Dong.
Independence, I like it. I bet there was a porn parody of this called Independence Dong because it was such a big movie. I guarantee you there was a porn parody. That's a thing we should put on the show. We should research whether the movie is big enough to have a porn parody.
Good call. It certainly had one.
Oh,
Underpendence Day. I don't know. I'm sure there's a few silly titles.
Underpendence.
Sorry, we derailed.
Oh man, I'm never coming back from that one. All right, let's get it back on. We got to get back on track here.
All right,
Kimmi, you got anything to plug? Anything to promote? I know you do, so go for it.
Yeah, so I have a podcast. If you like horror movies,
I do.
That's what I watch normally. So that's Nightmare on Film Street, and we're everywhere podcasts are. We also have a book. So if you like horror movies and you like cocktails, we had a book that just came out the end of November called Cocktails from the Crypt. It is available wherever books are sold, and it's 60 different cocktails based on 60 different horror movies.
So I know the answer. I have that book, and it's amazing, and you should buy it. I have been on your podcast, so I already know the answer to this. But for the people listening who don't, who's we? You keep saying we.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's because I always do podcasts with John. So my other half, John, he is our information bank.
Lesser half.
My lesser half. Yeah, he's our information bank. So he has all of the facts and information, and I just have puns. So yeah, that's
he's the Shawn. He's the Shawn, and you're the Cameron. He's the adult on the show, and you just show up.
Yeah, I don't know what to do without him. I'm like, hello, I like that movie.
Oh.
Yeah, that's you know what?
John, have a major horror blind spot, or are you like completely covered all through Giallo, all through European movies, all through subgenres, or is there one that's...
We do need to get John on. We are going to get John on one of these days.
The problem, though, is that he's seen everything. So he's been looking at your list of things you guys haven't done, and I don't think there's very many he hasn't seen.
He was mad
that I was doing this episode because he wanted to talk about it. But I'm like, you've seen it before. And he's like, I still want to talk about it.
That's the mini-sode. We bring him in. Lawrence of Arabia, Shawn. Everyone's blind spot. Lawrence of Arabia.
Of course.
Not to out him, but I believe he hadn't seen that. But yeah, we're going to have him on here soon. John and Kimmi are great. Not only are they friends, but they've been nice enough to have me on their podcast a couple times. And so they was long overdue for us to have Kimmi, and we'll get John on as soon as we find a movie he hasn't seen.
I'm going to go do a little mashup of Will Smith, who wrote A Nightmare on My Street. I'm going to change it to film. I'm going to submit that for them to have a little...
I do love that song.
I love that.
Piece of music.
I'm here for it.
That's great.
Are we done? Shawn, are we done?
I think we're done.
How do we normally end? How do we normally end this thing? I forget.
I will tell you. We're going to thank Kimmi for her time and for watching the movie with us and checking off a blind spot. And hopefully we can send her to bigger and better giant action movies henceforth if she's missed a few others.
Wait, hold on. Have you seen Armageddon, Kimmi?
I have. Yes, I have.
What about The Rock?
So John made me watch that one recently because I had not seen it.
Okay. All right, Shawn, you can continue. I just had to double check that.
Rock the Prom Queen. We need to, hey, Nicolas Cage is like 2 years off of Connery's age. They need to do like a legacy sequel of that where he's now the old timer and he takes a young whippersnapper actor and they have to invade Alcatraz again.
I'm here for it. Let's do it.
Yes. So yeah, we're rambling. We'll let you go, Kimmi. Thank you again for the time and welcome to Earth.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Our thanks again to Kimberley Elizabeth, and we will throw some links in the show notes at paperstreetpodcast.com that will link you to Nightmare on Film Street and some of her other work, including some social media. So look for that, paperstreetpodcast.com. In this post wrap-up, I will say Kimmi won me over in the idea that it wasn't just nostalgic. It was almost like the fact that it was an optimistic, rah-rah, everybody together, teamwork makes the dream work. The whole world comes together to kind of fix the problem. It was needed in this time as we're recording this at the very end of January 2025. So, while the world was still standing to a point, but we'll see.
Yeah, it was definitely it was interesting on a rewatch, the how much you bring current politics into your viewing of something like this, even if you're trying not to. So, yeah, it was fun to rewatch it under the guise of the doom and gloom of the day, and yeah, a welcome respite.
I've mentioned a couple times on both podcasts about my relationship with the movie Arrival, which was a recent example of like how the right thing to do could fix it all and not just throw a nuke at it, you know, and the world coming together to kind of fix a problem. And that movie came out, funny enough, right on the heels of an election of the same gentleman who's in office right now at the time, and hit me the craziest way. And I just had a brand new child, and I remember sobbing in the theater. That movie. This one didn't do that to me emotionally, but it was a nice watch. And like we talked about the before times, it felt nostalgic. It felt like, oh my God, remember pre 9/11.
Remember when we thought we could get every country to do the same thing for just the common good? Those were good days.
Good times.
Good times.
But this film was a humongous movie. It was an easy one. As soon as she said that as one of her picks, we're like, that's the one we're covering, because you talk about a movie in the zeitgeist. It may not be talked about all the time right now like it was for the first 10 years or so of its existence. And that sequel that was so forgettable probably didn't help matters. But in its day, this was the #1 movie at the box office for 96. It made 300 and change domestic million. Worldwide made another 500 million for a total of 817 combined. So it was a big one. I'm sure if you adjust that to today's numbers, you're in near Avatar territories. You know, you're up in the billions for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this was a movie like you said, the cultural osmosis, it still exists, but maybe not to the degree it once did. But it's hard to overstate how big this movie was in the moment. Like there was a thing, children, called Blockbuster Video back in the day. And I'll never forget, you could tell how big a movie was by how many copies of it they had. The Blockbuster by my house had an entire wall of Independence Day. It must have been 200 copies. Most movies get like 4. They must have had 200 copies. It was like a comedically large amount of movies, and damned if every one of them wasn't gone that Friday night. That's nostalgia.
Well,
that's nostalgia.
This is back when they would do a marketing campaign for the home video release too. But this had such a brilliant teaser trailer and just trailer campaign in general with the explosions, like we talked about.
Yeah, no, they definitely, this movie kind of from start to finish was advertised really well. Like it's one of the more famous Super Bowl trailers of all time still. People still talk about it. And like,
yeah, that was the mid-90s where they started to throw $1 million per spot. And that one I remember famously was one of those like $1 million spots, and really pushed the late 90s into having those all the big franchise movies started doing Super Bowl spots.
Yeah, what a year 96 was too, as I look at the list of what a year it was for action movies. You got Independence Day, Twister, and Mission Impossible are the 3 highest grossing movies of the year. And then The Rock as well, down a little bit at number 7. Like, what a banger year for action movies.
Not just that, also in that mix, Jerry Maguire, Ransom, The Rock, you said, Nutty Professor. I look at that and I go, oh, that was back in the movie star era where a movie star really sold a movie.
Yeah.
That and sci-fi special effects like Twister and Independence Day.
We talked quite a bit about one-liners on this episode and the people's one-liners in Independence Day. Well, none of them hold a candle to the one-liner from Ransom where Mel Gibson says, and I quote, Give me back my son. Yeah, I wasn't going to do it. I knew you would, though.
Yeah, every trailer ended with that.
Yeah.
Getting fed up with the guy on the phone. Give me back.
That's an all-timer. That's an all-timer line right there. That movie is forgettable for me. I didn't really care for it that much, but that line, chef's kiss.
Sometimes it's all you need. Good line.
That's right. All you need is love.
Earth. That's what I call a close encounter.
All you need is love. John Lennon. Shot in the back. Very sad.
Very sad. Very sad that we're finished up here, but we appreciate anybody who stuck it out all the way through this. This was a fun episode. Sorry for stepping on and off soapboxes once in a while, but you know, all things are political. If you don't think that, it's because you just got political and didn't realize
if you made it to the
was covered in political art.
If you made it to the end of this episode, God bless you. You got through a bunch of shenanigans to get here. Wait, hit me up on the Twitters. We'll give you something free if you made it to the end of this episode.
Oh, nobody on Twitter's listening to us, dude. You lost them at
Blue Sky. Sorry, did I say Twitter? Blue Sky.
That's okay. Old habits, man.
That's all right. We don't have that much. We don't have that much to give out, so we can only take a couple.
I'll send you my lenticular covered copy DVD, old school DVD of Independence Day, which I still have.
That's right.
This has been a presentation of the Paper Street Podcast. Thank you again to Kimberley Elizabeth from Nightmare on Film Street for being late to the party, but we're so glad she made it. For Independence Day, for Underpants Day, for Independence Dong, all the things we've said. For Cameron Burns, I am Shawn Talley. Thank you for listening to this nonsense. Don't be late to the party.
But if you are, call us. We'll put you on a podcast.
Dong.
We share hot dogs.